Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we still need to talk. Hey everybody, I am back. It has been a year and I am so glad to be back. So for everybody who has waited, everybody who's sent messages over the last year, well wishes on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, just PMs and just thank you. For everybody who stayed active on the SkepGen Discord, thank you. And for all of you who are joining, apropos of a couple days notice, I had decided we were going to be doing SkepGen starting at the beginning of the year. And you know what? I think I've got a couple things to answer for before we really get started. So before I start diving into explanations and talking about things and where the hell is V, I'm going to give the new number to the show because I want to get callers lined up. So the new number for the show is 412 SkepGen. Don't use that tiny.cc link. I just tried it and it is not working. So call in to 412 SkepGen. That's 412-753-7436. Again, 412 SkepGen, 412-753-7436. Eventually I'll get that memorized. I just don't have it memorized yet. Oh, okay. So I've got so many things to talk about, and I can talk about show stuff or I can talk about personal stuff first. And I feel like people are interested in the personal, so I'm going to go into the personal first. V and I moved. After taking our hiatus from the show, I had my first weekend after that, and I had not had a Sunday off really without having to find a sub, and V and I hadn't had a Sunday off together in years. And it was amazing. About 2 months after the show ended in February, myself, along with the entire marketing department for the company I was in, got laid off. And then the next month, we moved to Portland. V and I were planning on our move from Austin to Portland. You could probably see that the images in the intro have changed from Austin to Portland. And it's amazing here. After getting out here, I had a rough start of it, wound up getting a job, and it's okay. But long story short, I didn't want to start this show again as a cash grab. I could have, but we worked really hard on this, you know? Even though I needed the money, I didn't want to take advantage of the goodwill that we'd built up and with this audience, with you. And so we didn't. A couple of months ago, I thought, it costs a lot to get SkepGen up and going, but it doesn't cost as much if I do recorded content. So I tried my hand at some recorded content, offered it up to patrons, and didn't go so well. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to hold off until I can do SkepGen. And so I realized after January came and went and I didn't do the show that I just needed to jump in. It just needs to happen. And so here we are. And amazingly, as soon as I said that I was ready to come back, our incredible volunteers were just so excited. I say ours because they're still V's too, even though V's doing their thing. Anyway, I'll get to that. We moved out here and the company we'd work for went down completely. V and I had both lost our jobs. And I don't want to offer too much personal information, but we're doing okay, and V is busy. V is so busy. They're doing their job. They're doing side stuff. They're on the board of a nonprofit, and they're just doing their own thing. And so when I said I wanted to do SkepGen, V said, "That's incredible. I don't have the bandwidth." So we are still together. We are in love. Everything is good. V is in the other room, but. Other than times that I can cajole them into coming and joining me every once in a while, I'm going to be the primary host. I'm also lifting a couple of restrictions. Before, when we were in Austin, we had ready access to a bunch of different YouTubers, and in Portland we don't. And because of that, I'm not going to be able to rely on having regular in-studio guests. And so for that reason, I'm going to open up to remote guests. So I will be arranging that, and I already have a couple of really cool YouTubers that you will recognize lined up to guest with me on the show. So stay tuned for that. Let's see, what else? the Patreon. I see people in the comments already saying, hey, I've been a patron this entire time. I want to speak to that because when we left, we said that we were going to start a Patreon tier called Ongoing or Lifelong Skeptic. And that was going to be a $1 a month we would charge and just have this kind of ongoing thing to keep patrons while we were on hiatus. But V and I both agreed that if we weren't giving you content that was worth your money and your time, we didn't feel comfortable charging you. That's why you never got charged. I sincerely appreciate it. When I tried putting out the private video, the video long form kind of, philosophy content, I charged patrons, and it turns out that a lot of people forgot that they had Patreons. And so for that reason, this episode is not getting charged. I want to give patrons time to hop off if they can no longer afford it, whatever your situation is. This morning I restarted the Patreon tiers, and I am thanking everybody who stayed as active patrons the entire time we were gone. And they're going to be in the outro, so stay tuned for that. If you want to check out our Patreon, go to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. Our links, our tiny.cc links are mostly down. So if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. It includes a whole bunch of little goodies, including ad-free podcast, which, by the way, is back up, ad-free version of the show, and early access to things that we're putting out. So that's cool. Let's see, what else? As I was getting ready, I saw that our merch didn't go down. It said class of 2022. So if you were lucky enough to get some Skeptic Generation merch from 2022, you're the only ones. Because I took it down. So they are now collectibles. And I am going to be putting up stuff for this year. But give me time. If I had to wait until I got everything ready, I never would have started, and this late start is evidence of that. So I'm just glad to be here. When it comes to doing the podcast and when it comes to doing call-in studio and everything that it costs to make this show happen, and then I'll be done with money. I mentioned on social media that there are a lot of licenses and a lot of things to make this happen. I said if you want to support immediately, you can buy me a coffee. It is, I don't even have the link. It's Buy Me a Coffee, Skeptic Generation. Either way, I want to thank Duncan, Chris, Lucas, and Amit. Between the four of you sending me some cash, you were able to pay for over a third of what it took to make this episode happen. So, bottom of my heart, thank you. That made life a whole lot easier. Okay, that said, I'm sure there are lots of other things I need to talk about, and I just don't have them on me. So with that said, how about we move into our first guest? Oh, and I'm going to be thanking patrons at the end of the show. Patrons are going to be in the outro. I'm going to be thanking Superchats at the end of the show. So if you want me to respond to a specific question or anything that you have to say, pop that in Super Chat and I'll be able to see it. It'll pop up on my screen and I can answer that at the end of the show. Okay. Holy moly. We actually have a caller. So I am going to take our first caller because it is just me. I do not have their name typed in here, so be patient with me. But our first call is with Javier in South Carolina. Javier, you are live on Skeptic Generation.
Hello. Happy to see you back. Hope you're well.
Oh, I'm happy to be back. Thank you for calling in. My goodness, I'm happy and surprised to get an actual caller. So let me get your name here. Bam. Javier, what did you want to talk about today?
Alrighty. Well, basically, I wanted to discuss something that's based on, I guess, the current state where I'm at.
Okay.
I called a couple times before the hiatus, and I guess to just sorry, I need to. I'm not that good at articulating, but
no worries. I am going to turn up your audio a little bit because it's a little bit low. But if you are away from your mic, if you could speak just a little bit louder, I'm going to try and bump it up on my end as well, okay?
All right, sorry, I'm talking on my phone. But anyway,
I didn't give many options because the tiny.cc link went down, so like you're so good. Go for it.
okay, so back when I was calling in before the hiatus, I was really into this sort of discussion, talking about skepticism, religion, and broader, I guess, societal trends and morality and that kind of thing. But ever since then, and I've been kind of just sort of stepping away from it, not because I don't care. I still find this sort of discussion to be entertaining, fulfilling, important, etc. But I just kind of wanted, well, I guess to put it bluntly, just wanted to chill out a little about it and just deal with, deal with life as it came. And that made me think. I'm not here to like get on a soapbox and start saying, oh, everyone should back off and chill out or anything like that. But I'm curious, since I imagine you have much more experience in the realm of these topics than I do. What the broader, I guess, implications, in your opinion, would be if people in general started sort of chilling out and backing off?
Well, Javier, first to start out, it says in the notes that you are agnostic, but you still consider yourself a believer. Is that the case?
Yeah, I guess maybe you could call that progress of a sort. It's not that necessarily my goal. It's not like my goal is necessarily to come out of religion or anything like that. I genuinely want to believe. I want to be as secure as I can in terms of what I believe or do not believe.
That right there is progress. I love that. Okay, so can I just give you a couple of affirmations right just before we continue? So Javier,
sure.
the first thing is I don't consider leaving your faith progress, simply because I've met a lot of people who left their faith for really bad reasons. Maybe they moved into some other worse, cult or something, or because they just may have had really unsound reasoning for why they have deconverted. And so the fact that you want to have good reasons for what you believe is, in my opinion, progress. I love that. Cool. That said, when you say that, what are the implications of everyone backing off? Do you mean people leaving each other alone as far as what they believe? Or do you mean like people like me having conversations with believers, or you having questions and asking either way? Like, give me a little bit more info.
Okay, so what I mean generally by that is, I guess sort of losing interest isn't the right word, but those ideas and those discussions becoming much more secondary, tertiary, etc., in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So it would.
So
I'm sorry.
No. I didn't want to cut you off, but I think that you are at a place that I saw a lot, especially when I was over at the ACA. There are people who had been in this kind of non-believer space for a really long time, and they're just like, it's solved. It's over. People aren't having this conversation anymore. It doesn't matter. And the fact is, you're not having this conversation as much, but there are people who are in this process of deconversion or deconstruction of their religion. And it is a very, very lonely experience. And today is the first day for a lot of people. And that's why shows like this, even though for me it's old hat when it comes to, the philosophical arguments, and for me it's done to the point that I can have them in a really, really intelligible way. For others, it really is their first time. And it's not uncommon for these shows to have someone in the comments under every episode going, this was my first episode, thank you. So what are the implications of you moving on? Can I respond to that, or does that kind of take away from the question you were asking?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The implications of you moving on is you've got other stuff you want to think about. So for me, when I realized I didn't believe, it was a big moment for me. I thought that I needed to know, and I was having these really in-depth discussions with religious, leaders in my community. I was talking to a rabbi, who was the rabbi of a fraternity house of my friend, but he was a good rabbi. You know, he was there to kind of be there for them. I was talking to a Christian pastor. I was talking to a Taoist. I spoke to a number of people who were kind of into really woo-y stuff. And it was one day when I was talking to this rabbi, and I was just so fervent and like, it's not just about faith. Like, what is grounding your faith? And he looked at me and he goes, Eric, if you don't believe, then just don't believe. And I was like, that's an option? I hadn't even considered it. And right after that watershed moment, I just stopped thinking about it for years. You know, putting it down, I call it apatheism, you know, when you just don't care. If it becomes so much that, or so tiring or so boring, there are lots of things to do. And you not being involved in the conversation doesn't have a bad ethical implication for you. It doesn't, because there are people joining the conversation all the time. I think that there's a benefit to establishing yourself as someone who can create community and creating a place for people to not feel alone. But you don't carry the burden of that. We all do. And so putting that responsibility on yourself isn't fair to you or to anybody else. If it's time to step away for a bit, step away for a bit. Become the best version of you. That's really what's most important anyway, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I understand what you mean. It's certainly is a well, yeah. I guess I don't really know what to add there. I think you covered it in a way I agree with. One of the things, I guess, in my opinion at least, one of the things that helped me sort of just step away from it, even though I don't know how, I guess, epistemologically sound this is, it's basically the knowledge that it's something that I'm sure many current and former religious people have said and heard before, but it's that, well, I guess I'll find out someday, you know?
So that's the only point that I absolutely disagree. Because I think for me, when I die, I stop finding out everything. You know.
Good point.
Yeah, like this is the only chance I'm going to get to learn as much about the world as I can. But because it is my one shot, I do have the opportunity to choose what I'm going to do. You have the choice. You know, you have the choice to be as involved as you want to be because it brings you joy and satisfaction, because epistemically it helps ground you. And it sounds like you've been on this journey for long enough that you are probably better positioned than most. And that's incredible. It's okay to put it down. Maybe if you put it down now, you'll have the compassion or energy to come back at some point if it brings you joy again. But don't burn out, you know?
I see. Yeah, I certainly, I do understand. I'm not quite fond of burnout. I see having to.
Javier, I took a year off, right? Like, I stepped away for a year. Did you know that this show was getting, I was checking the download numbers on our podcast. And for each episode that I'm looking at, each of them are over 20,000 downloads. Like, we went up by over 1,000 subscribers. We hit 18,000 subscribers in the middle of last month when we weren't putting on any shows. This show is making a lot of progress. It was growing pretty dang fast. And you have to decide, you know, is it worth the burnout? So you're talking to somebody who stepped away and has come back refreshed. And maybe in a year, maybe less, maybe more, you'll be refreshed too. But you kind of owe it to yourself.
Yeah, I see what you mean. To be honest, in that time, I'm not saying that I purposefully lined it up with your hiatus, but that period of time, kind of halfway through, or rather a couple of months ago, is when I decided, you know, I'm stepping back, just gonna chill out for a bit.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see on my recommended feed, hey, that looks like a Skeptic Generation's gonna have a live stream tomorrow. This would be the perfect time for me to hop back and pray.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. Well, I wish you the best, and I hope that, as you have questions or as you work your way along it, feel free to call in. I sincerely appreciate you calling today because I was not expecting callers. I was very, very afraid that this was going to be a short episode because I was going to run out of things to say. And this was actually a meaningful conversation, so I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, Javier.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. I hope to be calling back. As maybe as much as I can would be the wrong phrase, but as soon as I got a question, I think we'll have a good conversation. Just call in and hash it out.
I love that. Sounds good. I look forward to it. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was awesome. Oh my gosh. All right. So I gotta say, we've got about 200 viewers, which is way more than I thought we'd have today, which is cool for a first episode back. Heck yeah. Today is the day that if you are a believer, if you, I had somebody in the comments saying, is Taoism wooey? I'm sorry. No, it is not wooey. After Taoism, I looked into the whole, chakra vibes, auras, drugs type stuff. And that is what I consider wooey. But if you have a question like that, if you have something that you believe and you want to talk about why, today is the day. If there's somebody that wants to have that conversation, today is the day because I need the callers. So I would sincerely appreciate that. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to our next caller. And this caller is actually a mod for us. And I appreciate that. Bree, you are on Skeptic Generation. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, how is it going? What did you want to talk about today?
Oh, it's going great. And I'm just so glad to have my favorite birthday present back because the first episode aired on my birthday.
I did not realize. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so thank you for coming back. It's awesome to have you back. Also gives me something to do.
I appreciate it. Was there anything specific that you wanted to talk about? Any topics?
Well, I did find my first gray hairs this last week.
Okay.
And it was so exciting. And I was like, yay!
Okay.
Have you and V had any moments like that lately?
So I don't know if the light is picking it up, but I have a lot of them. Since getting involved in YouTube, actually, it really kind of exploded. But I'm loving it. It is an affirmation that I am growing, and I do think I'm growing wiser as time goes by. So I'm proud of it, and it is definitely a badge of honor. I've been wanting to be a salt and pepper person ever since I was in high school, so I'm loving it. But yeah, if there aren't any other like philosophical or religious topics, was there anything else?
Well, I could come up with something.
No worries.
My partner wanted me to come up with some kind of crazy conspiracy theory for why you've been gone.
No worries. I sincerely like when we get into creating straw men, representing versions of that just aren't ourselves. It gets kind of icky for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because those people aren't there to defend themselves, and they have a better idea of what they believe and why, and so misrepresenting them can be crummy. No worries about that. But thank you for hopping right in, and thank you to everyone else. Your name is definitely in the outro as a thank you. Hopping in and being an organizer for mods and just being one of the first people to welcome me back. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, Bree.
Yeah, it's great to see you back and have a great first show.
Appreciate it. I will, I think. Take care.
All right. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So let's see here. We are already halfway through the show, and I am really, really surprised. Let's see. So Bree was the last. Oh, we've got somebody else calling in. If you want to talk, if you don't want this to be a short episode, I know that we have not had a whole lot of time to get the info out there, but the phone number is 412-SkepGen. 412-753-7436. It looks like the tiny.cc link is not working. But if you call in to 412-753-7436 or 412-SkepGen, you can talk to me today. In the meantime, I'm open. So let me talk a little bit here about my plans for SkepGen, because I do have a couple of really cool things that I'm really excited about. So first off, like I said, I've got some really, really cool guests who are going to be coming on in the next few weeks. So it's not just going to be me all of the time. I really, really need that, because if I need to go to the bathroom, there's no one who's going to fill dead air. So that's important. Also, you will see that I have a new set. This is real. And I have an entire space that you cannot see that's right over there that I want to fill. My goal eventually is to sit at a table with a camera further away, like I used to on Talk Heathen back in the day. I really, really enjoyed being part of a studio set. It felt a lot less like a Zoom call and felt more like a show. And I really, really enjoyed that. It's going to take time to do. I've got a lot to build up, but that is what is coming up as far as the growth of the show. Also, obviously, in time as we get patrons and we get support and AdSense. I don't know if y'all know this, but if you put in a super chat or if you see an ad, it takes about 1.5 to 2 months for me to receive that. So it's going to take time. But as it does, I'm going to be building that out, and I'm hoping to have a really, really cool set. And I'm really excited about that. V and I'm not going to dox myself, but V and I did move into a house with a basement, and I have never lived in a house with a basement. It's a nice one, and it is the best kind of sound, like deadener. You know, motorcycles can drive by outside, ambulances, and it will not interrupt us. When it comes to a recording space, either you can spend $100,000 building a room within a room so that you can have a really good recording, quiet space, or if you're lucky enough to have a basement, it does most of the work for you, and I'm really, really happy about that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, good. We've got a couple of callers calling in, but first, I obviously want to talk to the love of my life. V, you are live on Skeptic Generation. How's it going?
What? Oh my God. I thought I was ordering a pizza.
Thanks, V. Appreciate it.
How are you feeling?
It feels like riding a bike. I was not expecting to be able to jump back into this version of me this quickly. I was afraid that I was going to blank. And it feels really right,
Good. Well, I'm seeing lots of people, lots of friendly faces in the live chat, and I got to talk to Secular Rarity on the phone just now, so I'm feeling all the love from here.
Yay! I love that. I think
I do have a question.
Sure, what's up?
My question for you, Eric Murphy of Skeptic Generation, is...
V did it. Wait, you're V. Fuck. What's up?
You don't need to be scared.
What's up?
My question is, how do you envision Skeptic Generation changing now that you are back after a year? Because I happen to have some back-end knowledge about how you've changed as a person and your views on the world. And I suspect that they might be a little different than what we were doing before. So I'm curious, when you think about what this new season of Skeptic Generation is going to be, what do you envision? What might be a little bit different?
I love that. Thank you. So a couple of things have happened. One of them is I have healed. After years and years of doing call-in shows without a real time to take a break or a hiatus, I was burning out. And, I felt like I had burned out twice in the time of, just doing everything. And I feel like there's a dip in quality of content because people can tell. And even when you're trying your best, if it is something that is taking a lot from you, it's not as fun and it's not as entertaining. And I feel like I've had enough time to actually take a break and bring actual energy to it and actual passion for it that I think is going to be awesome. I did talk about what I want to do when it comes to creating a set, but in the meantime, in the short term, I have a couple of ideas, and I'm kind of floating things around because I don't know what people want to see. Like, I know a couple of months ago, that I tried to put out some recorded philosophy content, and it didn't go over super well. But I am feeling really rusty when it comes to my ability to engage in this content. So one of the things that I'm thinking about is potentially live streaming. Watching videos back and being like, oh, that was really good, or oh, I messed that up. I know that I started a channel a while back called Murphy's Law, where I went back over content, and I feel like me needing to brush up on everything could be fun if people wanted to do that with me. So that's something that I'm tossing around. Yeah, right. We'll see what people say, and if that's something that they're interested in. And then there's another thing that I was thinking about doing, and I have blanked on it, V, but you know what it is, don't you?
Possibly. Surprise me. What's up?
No, I don't remember. I was hoping you'd tell me. I will figure it out. I mean, there are a number of things, I really thought people would be interested in standalone philosophy videos. But it could be the way I edited it. It could be needing specific things. But what I know is that people, who want to watch SkepGen, want to get this content when they watch SkepGen. So we'll see from there. But yeah.
What about in terms of engaging with people? Are you going to be like, have you changed in your style at all? Is this something that people are going to be able to tune into for smackdowns? Are you excited to get into arguments? Are you excited to, what's happening internally here?
I've become a little bit more extreme when it comes to like economic views on the world.
Extreme economic views. Hold on to your hats, people.
Thanks, V. Thank you. Appreciate that. No, I've definitely become a lot more anti-cop, actually, because I had to take a security job for a little while, and I was just like, holy crap, our system's broken. And I'll probably engage in that a little bit more. I have not softened terribly, I don't think. I don't know. After so long, I don't know if I'm going to be more laissez-faire about things, or if I'm going to come back ready to bite somebody's. I don't know. I think time's going to tell. But I'm kind of open to seeing which direction it goes. But being somebody who lives with me, what do you expect? Because I know I've got a couple of callers on the line, but I'm actually really interested, and I bet people would like to know. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, man. Well, I think that there's going to be, my hope is that you get to expand the kinds of things that you talk about, and you get to talk about those with the same level of energy and passion that you've been talking about religious and philosophical stuff with. And I know that that's always going to be central, but there are a lot of things to be skeptical about. And I'm excited to see what kinds of callers get attracted to the show now that we're in a different place and starting up again. And I'm excited to see kind of how you're going to be handling all that.
Me too. If callers are watching, or people are watching and going, oh, Eric's going to get really into politics. No, not that one. I, not because I don't have strong opinions, but because I don't think that I have engaged with it enough to have nuanced ones that I can, engage with at the level of detail and confidence that I am, when it comes to philosophy and stuff. But yeah, time's gonna tell. I'm really interested to talk to you after the show and find out what specifically you're thinking about, because other than me saying, I've become more anti-cop and that kind of stuff, like I'm interested. But that said, V, you...
Well,
oh, go.
It's been fun to be on the other side of this, and I'll be watching and rooting for you.
I sincerely appreciate it. You have effectively helped me get some thoughts out that I forgot to bring up. I really appreciate your voice, your support. I know that people miss you. I'm seeing in the comments people are missing you like crazy. I love you, and I will see you after the show.
Sounds good. Knock 'em dead.
Thanks. Okay. That feels good. I really like that. And I got a whole bunch of callers, which is fantastic. So why don't I move into talking to our next person? I have Steve in Ohio. Steve, you are on Skeptic Generation.
Cool. Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling in. So
yeah, thanks for having me. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just, you're coming in nice and loud and clear, and the last two callers were really quiet, so I'm just adjusting your volume a little bit, and you should be good now.
Got it.
What did you want to talk about today?
So first, real quick, just get out of the way. Long-time follower, first-time caller. Glad to have you back. I've been waiting for when you guys come back in.
Aw, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I am so surprised that people remembered and are excited for this to be back. It is surreal, and it is filling me up, like, confidence-wise in a way that I have deflated in the last few months. So I'm like really, really happy about that. Steve, what did you want to talk about?
So, ironically, you came back at about the perfect time. So my wife was pagan. She is very rapidly losing her faith. As she described it, she took a peek behind the curtain and now cannot get away from the conclusion that there is, more probable than not, nothing after the lights go off. And she is going into depressive spirals pretty much every night.
Yeah.
I'm helping her the best I can with like the philosophers like Alan Watts that I went into when I first started going through it.
Sure.
But it's only doing so much for her. I don't know what to do.
Is your wife watching, or is this a video that you're going to show her? Possibly, depending.
I'm not sure if I'm going to show her. I might recommend it. I don't know how she'll feel about disclosing this.
I totally understood.
Without her being the one to talk about it, but I want to help.
Yeah. So the first thing that has helped in my experience is affirmation. Not only is it something that I personally remember and was very depressed about, but it feels like every major philosopher has talked about this too. You have this feeling, Socrates, right? Going back to the Greek philosophers, he would ask people, why is this? Why, trying to get to the underpinnings of why we do what we do, and not trying to rely on tradition or custom or anything like that. And when you get to the bottom of it, just like a 2-year-old, and you say, why enough? You get to, I don't know. And that I don't know at the bottom of pretty much everything. It's called aporia, and it is this sinking feeling. It's this. It causes this. It does not feel good, and I think part of that is something that I've experienced and a lot of people experience when it comes to having a fundamental shift in the way that you understand the world. And then when it comes to like the French philosophers. And when you're talking about nihilism and responses to nihilism, like existentialism, and um, just like that whole group. There was another word, and it is when the bottom falls out from under your understanding of morals and ethics, right? Because if you've lived your whole life and you think that a god is watching your every move and is going to spank you, if you do something wrong, and then that god just goes away, there's this free fall that happens because it's underpinning so many things in your life. And one of those big things is, how do we treat each other and how do we treat ourselves? And that's called anomie, and so anomie. Transhumanist Psych says absurdism. You're absolutely right. That is Camus' response to the nihilism question. It's important to recognize and affirm, first off, that this is something that we have struggled with for a really, really, really long time. And moving forward from there, my suggestion is to frame this as an opportunity. So I don't go in for Sartre on everything. I don't go in on existentialism too much, but I feel like that's a really good place to jump in. Sartre said that if no one else is giving you, if there's not some outside source giving you purpose, make one. Decide what purpose you're going to fill. Maybe it's religion, maybe it's something else. But deciding what you're living for, what has that purpose, that value for you. I feel like when I have taken that advice and succeeded on the things that I have, gone for and strove for, it was way more rewarding because I was the one who set that goal for myself, and I didn't feel like I was checking off somebody else's checklist. I wasn't living on somebody else's schedule, but I was creating the schedule for myself. And when I achieved on it, it felt like it's hard to describe, but it is a wonderful feeling. I think that this feeling of despair when it comes to losing your understanding of the world by deconstructing your faith is entirely reasonable. It's entirely understandable. I've heard people say it. I've even said it as, breaking your leg to sell you a crutch, right? When the crutch goes away, you're like, my leg was broken, but that's only because you were told that you were broken. Telling you you're sick to sell you the medicine. The fact is...
Yeah, it's kind of funny. She...
Go ahead.
Described it as she has now lost, one of her lower legs, and people are trying to give her a prosthetic.
Yeah.
She's upset that she can't get her leg back.
Absolutely. And part of it is it's going to take a long time to really come to terms with the fact that that is a leg that you were told you were missing, but you never had. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's really, really tough to do, and it hurts. And so, affirming that, yeah, it hurts, I think is really, really important, because for a whole lot of us, going through this alone sucks. And having you there with her, I think, is really awesome. So I'm looking forward to the direction she takes, and it doesn't need to be the same direction that you went, but
yeah.
Be there for her when it comes to, well, of course, you're her partner. I'm not going to, but when it comes to having good reasons for what you believe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a time of epistemic upset, and now's a really, really good time to fill out that toolbox that she's going to be using for the rest of her life. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for her. I know it's scary and it's sad and all of that, but there's no growth without pain. Not really. Without pain, there's nothing that's going to push us forward into whatever the next great version of ourselves is. It sucks and I hate it and I wish I could grow without it. But it feels like that is just a major part. And so that pain is the growth, the beginning of this next great person, this next great version of this person that you love. So that's exciting. And I hope it works out for you.
Yeah. Luckily, she's never struggled, even when she was deeply into paganism, with having her own purpose and her own control. Right now, it's just the one hurdle of she's not okay not existing. But I think this has helped give me some new tools to use, so thank you so much.
Yeah, some things that have helped me is one of them that I remind myself is I was not sad that I didn't exist before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's that. And just, I know that this is your wife, but there is a book right off screen that I'm going to grab. 1 second.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's a kid's book. So when it comes to like fear of death and not existing,
Okay.
there's an Elephant and Piggy book called We Are in a Book, where Piggy realizes that they're in a book and that book is going to end, and Piggy is freaking the fuck out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right? It's this this existentialist nightmare, and the way that Elephant responds is really beautiful. He says, well, then this is our time to celebrate while we can. Let's do all the things we want to do beforehand. You know?
Oh, I am going to deep dive into this. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It is like a 2-3 minute read, but it's really, really sweet, and I loved it so much that I bought it, and I've got it on the shelf next to me. So I know I could come up with a whole bunch of other things, but feel free to call back, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much for, again, letting me on here.
Thank you, Steve. Take care.
Take care.
What a sweetheart. Oh my gosh, I loved that. And we've got more people. Okay, so let's dive in and talk to Dan in Canada. Dan, you are on
Hello.
Skeptic Generation. Hello, hello.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for calling in. First episode back. The fact that you caught that the stream was going on, that you wanted to talk, I love it. So thank you. It says in the comments that you are agnostic, that you are living in Canada, and that you're dealing with some shit. What's going on?
So, first of all, welcome back. I thought the show was dead, so this is amazing.
I needed the time to heal a bit, and to rest and work on Eric off camera a bit. And I'm so happy to be back. So thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's important, man. Like, not enough people talk about taking time off, so I'm glad you recovered enough to come back.
Appreciate it. The scary thing is talking to my other YouTube friends. When they talk to me about their burnout, my first response now is, "You should stop doing it for a little while." So hopefully that doesn't lead
Try
to
breathing. It's like, try breathing for a second.
Well, it's difficult, man. It is super, super difficult when you're in this need to create content like that. But anyway, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, it's good, man. It's a conversation. My question to you, I guess, a little bit for your backstory, because I don't know you well. But you were a religious person or not?
Oh yeah, I was a good Christian boy.
So then you probably struggled with the same dwelling, long-term fear of hell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
My religious journey started Pentecostal, so
Oh,
fire and brimstone,
the
big part of it.
Yeah, the hell you grew up with was intense.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just been there since I'm a kid. So, like, I'm a 40-year-old adult human who's afraid of an end game scenario that I can rationally say probably isn't going to happen. And yet it still to this day affects me.
Yeah. Absolutely. So are you... Well, let's...
I'm not even sure there isn't a God. I fall into the agnostic category, and I don't even know what I want an answer to be. I just am not convinced there isn't something.
Sure.
But
yeah. Okay.
Like,
well, can we play around with this a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, have you heard of Pascal's wager?
Yes.
Okay. So for people
Boils
who are...
down to,
go ahead.
I could be right, so I might as well hedge my bet.
Kind of, yeah. When I was a Christian, we hated it. Because we said God isn't death insurance. But that was kind of what Pascal had said. So what Pascal did is he created a little graph, right? And in four corners, you had heaven and hell actually existing, not actually existing, believing and not believing. And so if you believe in heaven and hell exist, cool, you can go to heaven and avoid hell. If you believe and it doesn't exist, doesn't matter because you just VoIP out of existence. If you don't believe and it doesn't exist, doesn't matter, VoIP out of existence. But if you don't believe and it does exist, you can go to hell. And so it sounds, using Pascal's wager, like the prudent thing to do is believe just in case, right? But the assumption there is that that's the only option. But you know that there are lots and lots of different versions of an afterlife. And most of them that I've seen are mutually exclusive. So even if you did believe and you were the best Christian, maybe you're going to go to maybe some other God question was the right one. You're going to get punished anyway. You know, it's not four squares, it's infinite. In as many different versions of... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, actually, South Park did an amazing example of that. And all these people arrive in hell, and it's like, but wait, I was a great insert religion here. And then the one guy comes to the front, yes, you are all in hell, you are all dead. The correct religion was...
Mormonism, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. And so when it comes to that, I think that contextualizing it in the realization that if there is a hell, if that was the case, it isn't necessarily because you were a bad person, you know, and that isn't the most like philosophically sound, I guess, thing, but personally for me, that was something that I thought of that helped me. Another thing that I thought of is that I gave them enough time. I gave them enough of me, and they don't deserve any more. They don't get to have more of me. So Dr. Darrell Ray, who is the founder of Recovering from Religion, actually calls this, it's a form of abuse. And you're a survivor of it. So am I, and so are a lot of the people watching. You know, being absolutely instilled with this fear is a trauma that we're working on healing from. And recognizing it as a trauma is really important, because I've talked to people who try and like rationalize their way into shaming themselves to not feel bad. Shame is not a good reason to get through it. So if you're one of those people, or if anybody who's watching is trying to shame themselves out of fear of hell, it is just piling abuse on top of the trauma that you're already trying to recover from. So recognize it for what it is. It is recovery from trauma. And take your time with it and be compassionate with yourself, because way too many people, including me, I was not compassionate with myself, and I was frustrated with myself because that fear was still there, even if I had moved in so many other ways. But that's because I was trained into that. You know, that is really, really difficult to let go of. And that's okay. You're not alone, you know?
Yeah. It's frustrating because, like, on the one hand, conceptually, rationally, I'm in one place with religion. And yet, on the other hand, there's this, like, lizard brain fear at the back of my head going, remember what they told you as a kid.
Yeah. Absolutely. But then again, I don't know about you, but on a really dark night when I got to wake up and find my way to the kitchen to get a glass of water and I'm walking through a dark house, I also remember scary movies. You know? I also remember The Exorcist. And that fear is something that my lizard brain is doing. And, you know, just recognizing, hey, that's your lizard brain. Well, I don't know, maybe categorizing it that way can help, because there are a lot of irrational things that people are afraid of, especially when it comes to, you know, dark shapes in the night. But we recognize them for what they are. And this is a trauma that you're working through. And it's understandable, and a lot of us are still dealing with it, you know? Yeah. I don't know. What's interesting is, you know, in atheist spaces, people get really down on that whole fear of hell thing. But it feels like it's a part of that entire package that you're sold on when you're religious. You know, people think, oh, why? I don't have the God belief anymore, so I'm all of a sudden somehow more able to discern right from wrong. When the fact is, it's a whole package. You know, when it comes to leaving a religious belief, you're also potentially needing to look at your politics, your views on sex, on gender, your responsibility to your community, to yourself, to your family. And
it felt like a whole structure
it
of my
is.
person was just kind of removed.
It is. And I kind of want to call out that there are a lot of people in the atheist community who are still very much fundamentalist Christian in the way that they shame and like kick others out and will gatekeep in ways that they learned at church. But they're not putting that critical eye there, you know, but they'll take that critical eye to a fear of hell. So it's frustrating, but as far as I'm concerned, you're kicking ass. Take the time, have some compassion for yourself, okay, Dan?
Yeah.
I wish I had more for you. I wish I could
you.
take that from you, but it's just one of those things, you know.
You've offered me a different perspective on it, and
Yeah.
that's a lot. So
Good. Talking about it like this takes the teeth out a little bit too. So it's really awesome that you had the strength to call. So thank you.
well, I appreciate what you're doing here, and we don't want to see you go early. So
Thank you. I hope that you are in the audience, and I hope to talk to you again. Take care, Dan.
take care. Bye.
Bye. That was nice. Okay. Oh my goodness. I don't know how long this show's going to go. I just realized I'm not sure, but we're going to keep going because we've got callers and I want to talk to them. I miss talking to people. So our next person, I'm just going to go in order of the order that they called in. Maria in Washington. You are live on Skeptic Generation. Hi, Maria.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I am so happy to see you back in the channel. I am glad that you took the time that you needed, but it is very good to see you back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What did you want to talk about?
So I have a question that I don't necessarily know my position on. But I do love seeing you geek out on philosophical questions from time to time. So I wanted to hear your opinion on this.
Okay.
So basically, like, we know that there's like difficult moral questions, right? Like, I can go to the most simple example, like the trolley problem. Would you like pull the lever or not? Or things like that, or like maybe a little bit more complex, like, is it what the justice system should look like for someone that did a very heinous crime, like murder someone? Like, is it morally justifiable to search retribution, or should we just like focus on that person just receiving like tools to go back to society, and I'm lacking the word. But basically,
I can help with that one. It's whether or not it's punitive, right? You're punishing them, or whether or not it's rehabilitative, where you want to rehabilitate them into a functioning member of society again, and put them back as somebody who can not be damaging to the community that they're in. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So all these moral questions, in my opinion, depends a lot on like the point of view of whoever is answering. Like, they are not necessarily like, there's not a objective truth to them. There's not like a correct answer. But I think that speaks to our inability to be completely objective. Like, we're all affected by our experiences. So my question to you is basically, do you think if there was out there an entity, which I don't believe in, but an entity that could like see all information, be perfectly objective, do you think that these moral questions have like an objective truth that like if an entity existed that could like gather all the information necessary to answer them, could like answer in a satisfactory way?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, the jacket is coming off for this. I love this question. Okay, so let's dive in. Is there more that you wanted to add, or can I start to respond here?
Yes, no. I think that's the crux of my question, and I don't know how to answer it myself. I have like dabbling with this. But
I can tell you what I got. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the first is we have to talk about what truth is. Do you have a definition for truth whenever you talk about something being true?
So here's something that it goes a little bit why I'm talking about moral questions instead of like naturalistic questions, right? Because I feel like I have seen many other YouTubers, and Apology, I think, is the one that approached this like definition of truth is like, oh, that adheres to reality, like that gives you like repeatable answers, or seems to like have like evidence in nature. But yeah, so I feel like that definition of truth goes towards answering things like that happen in nature, if that makes sense, but doesn't give you like, oh, what is truth, about questions that are more about like moral. What is the correct thing to do? Yeah.
Okay, so
I would love to hear your definition of truth.
No, you got mine. So other people have different ways that they define truth, but I'm right there. I think that what is true is that which comports to reality, right? Because you check it against reality, and if you check it against reality and those things are the same, cool, it's true. If you can't, it's not. But that does only get into the world, right? We have other things that we talk about that aren't necessarily something that you can put under a microscope. But I think,
and I think if I may add to that, I feel like that is something that sociological studies try to like emulate in some way, like, going back to the question of punishment versus rehabilitation,
Yeah.
like you could like theoretically kind of like do a study and see what has like the better impact in society in the long run, and kind of like compare it to reality, then gives you like a good answer, right? But I don't know if I feel like those type of studies can answer it like completely 100%.
Right. Okay. So I've got two parts to this, and I can go off on like really big tangents, but I want to make sure that I get like the main points across before I lose my train of thought.
Okay.
So the first one is when it comes to something being true, to me, I separate it into capital T truth and lowercase t truth.
Okay.
For the things that are capital T true, right, those things that comport to reality, we can never actually access it. We can never directly access those things that are true, because we're limited to our sight, our smell, our taste, our touch, the tools that we have to investigate things, and those things could be wrong, right? We could be close to the truth, but we can't really determine whether or not we're right there, right? We can get close, we can get to lowercase t truth, but never actually to that uppercase T truth. And I think that if you were to take that and put that onto some kind of all-knowing being who could factor in everything, our access to that would still be the same, lowercase t, capital T truth. We would not be able to access it in a way that, at least to me, is satisfactory. And so to me, that adds an extra step onto things. But the other thing there is, I feel like we're talking about different categories. Have you heard of the term non-overlapping magisteria?
Oh, no, I've never heard that term.
It is a really frustrating one that I learned when I was pretty young, when I was asking questions. And that is that the idea that there's the religious realm and all the things like miracles that are in religion, and then there's the scientific realm. And they're separate from each other, and they do not overlap. And so
is it a theological term?
Yeah, it is. And those things kind of, to them, are in their own separate places. And so that's the first word that comes to mind for me. But I do think that there are different categories when it comes to what you're talking about, right? So what you're talking about is epistemology. And by the way, V did a video on this years ago. I can see if I can find the link that talks about this really, really clearly. So I'm going to do my best, but if you could find the video.
Don't worry, I can also look for it.
Good.
I would love to see their perspective as well.
Good. So I feel like there are three, or when V talks about it, there are three tent poles, right, that are holding up people's understanding of the world. One of them is epistemology. Epistemology is the way, why you think what you think, right? And you're diving for that epistemic tool right now to understand what you're talking about. But I feel like there's another piece there, and that's axiology. And
which is like your basis, like from where you're starting.
So all of them kind of work together. So axiology is the ought piece. Right? What ought you do? What is the right thing to do?
Okay.
Yeah. And the ought and the is are different. Now, don't get me wrong. Your understanding of the world can influence your ought, right? Your axiology. So your epistemic understanding of the world. Maybe you go, okay, I really value human flourishing. Cool. What is the ought there? Well, I ought to do things that encourage human flourishing, and maybe reduce suffering. Cool. So you create that ought, and that is the axiom that you're using now. But they are different things, right? They inform each other. Maybe you have the axiom of a God exists, and they're going to punish you if you touch yourself. Cool. That informs your epistemology, right, of why you think about the world the way it does, but they exist separately. So
Yeah, and I guess that without tapping into a God, you could say like, oh, I appreciate human flourishing. So I think that rehabilitation is better because it has better results for society
Mhm.
versus someone that says, oh, I appreciate justice and natural action consequence. So I think that is more important for justice to be served in a way. And so we ought to punish.
And and
Um,
and those different axioms are what we're talking about, and it really comes down to, you know, why are those your axioms, you know?
yeah.
But again, like let's go back to that idea. If there was some grand creator designer who knew everything and understood it perfectly, what is that designer's axiom? Because maybe their axiom, it doesn't have anything to do with human flourishing. Maybe it has to do with some, you know, some other rock in space, an inconceivable distance away, you know, and we have
Yeah.
nothing to do with what ought to happen, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that that taps into like this conversation of like, oh, there objective morals, and some people have pointed out that if your objective morals are based on what a God thinks is good or not, then it's not objective; it's subjective because it's subjective to what God's opinion is.
Yeah, you're
So
absolutely
it's
right.
so
You can't get away from that subjectivity. It really bites. But the better solution, at least that I think, is we just define objective to be something that we're all agreeing on, right? It is something that we all want to happen, and so that objective is created by us. I don't think objective morality needs to come from some divine command, you know?
yeah,
Because
yeah, and I cannot imagine entity that has all knowledge and is also like free of subjective opinion by itself. Like I don't even know how that would look like.
I feel like any kind of being that was that did not have axiom would not be able to act. It would be a statue. You know?
No, that is very yeah, I guess so, because if they don't have any odds,
Right.
then it would be like indifferent to anything.
Yeah. And so it's I don't know. It's definitely interesting, and that I want to find the video V did on it, and I'll try and remember to link it in the description for this clip, because I'm definitely going to clip this and put this out there for people to check out. But yeah, there's ontology, which is just what is, right? There's epistemology, which is why we think, you know, and reason and understand things the way we do. And then there's axiology, which is, you know, what ought. And all of those things inform each other and hold each other up and kind of create the framework that we base our understanding of the world on. And so, yeah, it sounds like you're worried about why axiology doesn't fit into epistemology or ontology. It's because it's its own thing.
Yeah, no, I guess that this is a conclusion that I have arrived whenever I was thinking about this, but you have helped me to put into words what I intuitively was thinking.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that I go nuts for. I absolutely love these conversations. It feels disconnected in the same way that I disconnect when I play, you know, a game that I love or do something else that I love doing. I know it's navel gazing in a way, but it's the best kind, and I love it. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I am very excited to see you again, and I'll give my love as well. I am sure they are watching the show right now. But
oh,
still.
definitely. They're having fun in the comments. If you check in the comments, you'll see that he's talking in there. Maria, ¿te habla español?
Sorry, what?
So English isn't your first language. What is?
No, yeah, my first language is Spanish. I am actually from Guatemala, but I have been living here in Seattle for like 5 years now.
So your ability to have this kind of conversation in a language that is not native is so impressive to me. I'm amazed by that, and I would love if you get the opportunity. I'm going to be going into the SkepGen Discord after the show, and I would love to talk to you about whether or not you'd be interested in doing this kind of content in Spanish, because I can help make it happen, but I can't engage.
It's very interesting that you say so, because I have been thinking that shows that talk about the skepticism are lacking in Spanish. I feel like, and right now I don't have the bandwidth, as someone would say, to like create this type of content or anything like that. But I have been thinking like, this type of content is really needed in Spanish as well.
So, question.
I feel like there's a lot of.
Yeah, I have a question for you. If you didn't have to do all of the work of putting up the show and producing it and doing all the video work and the advertising and the thumbnails and descriptions and all of that, if you just hosted, would that be something you think you might have the bandwidth for?
Yeah, I think so. I would love to. I think that one of the most difficult parts would be like do all the research and make sure that I kind of like understand the things that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
A more.
So that is literally the problem that I deal with all of the time. So that is not unique. If you get the opportunity, hop into the Discord. If not, shoot me an email at contactskepticgeneration@gmail.com. And let's talk, because that would be something that I would find a lot of value in and that I would love to explore.
Oh my God. Oh, that would be amazing. I am totally open to ideas, and if we can make this type of content more accessible for people that don't speak English, I love that idea.
I agree. And plus we're in the States, so nobody can, we're far away from where people can get pissed off. Anyway, Nadia, thank you for calling in. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too, and good luck with the rest of the show. And hello to everybody that is making this possible as well.
It's sincerely appreciated. They're amazing. All right, take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I've got 3 more callers. So for the call screeners, let's have these next 3 callers be the last 3, because I know that we've got like a good number of people coming through, but I know people have other obligations and I don't want to take them from it. So let's move on and talk to Roy, who is an agnostic in North Carolina. Roy, you're on Skeptic Generation.
Hey, Eric. This is the first time I've called into any sort of show, but I've been a fan for a while.
Yay! I'm so surprised that like people found out for the very first episode that we're coming back. Like the fact that so many people are here and it's blowing my mind. I'm really glad that you called in. Thank you. What did you want to?
And congrats on the basement.
Right. It's so funny when I talk to people who have grown up with basements. They're like, ew. But for me, man, living in southern states, living in California and Texas. In California, an earthquake is just going to kill you. Like you would not want to be underground. And in Texas, where we were around Austin, you would get 6 inches down, and then it's just like limestone, And so even like indoor, like below ground pools is really, really rare because you kind of got to dynamite it. So to be able to do this is really, really wild for me. But anyway, thank you. What did you want to talk about today?
I just saw the notification like when the call was like 26 minutes in. So I joined and then I called in, so I didn't plan anything ahead, and the call screener wanted me to be more specific. They weren't pushy or anything, of course, but there's only 2 main topics I could talk about. It's like my agnosticism or trans issues because I'm trans.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you want to talk about both or one before the other.
I sincerely appreciate it, and shout out to the person who is currently screening calls. It's Secular Rarity, SR, who's on
Oh, okay.
Heathen. who is just an absolute sweetheart and is doing this today, and I sincerely appreciate it. So when it comes to trans issues, my partner is trans, and I am not. And so when it comes to speaking about trans issues, there's only so far that I'm comfortable in going before I feel like I'm trying to speak for someone who's not me. You know what I mean?
Okay, I understand.
And so, like, as a trans person, there are certain things that I would defer to you on because you have a lived experience that I don't have. But if there's something in trans issues or in arguments or things that you've experienced that you want to talk about, and you know, anything specifically like that, I'm all ears, and I'm happy to engage.
I didn't want it to be all sappy, but I didn't, like, some of the calls were a bit emotional, and that's good to talk about, but I have mental health issues, and I don't want to get too heavy. But I only learned I was trans when I was in high school. I think it was my junior year. And so for most of my youth, I was completely oblivious to why I was such a weirdo and why it felt so different. And I didn't fit in with either guys or girls because they were just either too rough or too posh, or they all screamed at bugs, and I was the one that picked it up and take it outside. And
yeah,
like, I always was just different, and I didn't have any word for it until high school. And my family wasn't, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
My mom and dad thought it was a phase, and right during high school, that was not the best time for me. But both of them accepted me after a few years, but I'm having trouble with the rest of my extended family.
That makes sense.
So, like, things are improving, kind of.
I even just when it comes to leaving religion, there are family members who I won't speak to anymore. I cannot imagine the leap and that gulf that you've been experiencing. Yeah. That can I offer something? How old are you, Roy?
22.
Okay. So, did you see any of the content that I did when I was with the atheist community of Austin?
Yeah, I've watched pretty much all the atheist shows, so probably, yeah.
Yeah. So before starting Talk Heathen, I was a call screener for the atheist experience. And there was a caller, like we would get a whole bunch of different types of callers, and that's true for most of these call-in shows. And the importance of having a call screener is because there's a certain type of caller who needs to call in but is not on the air. And I can explain that a little bit. I talked to this guy who was, I think, like 75, 76, right? And he was just coming to terms with the fact that he's gay. And he lived this entire life trying his best to uphold these religious principles that kind of excluded being gay from being an option. And after kind of deconstructing his religious views, he was able to kind of look at himself in the mirror and go, I'm gay. And opening up, I could tell that talking to me as a call screener, I was the first person that he'd actually been able to talk to about this. And he cried. And he cried. And I took that call and I talked to him until after the show ended. And I just listened because he was grieving the fact that he no longer had the time. He doesn't have enough life to, he's never going to be gay in his 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s. That the idea of growing old with somebody that he loves was robbed from him. And
well, I hope he lives a bit longer, at least.
I
can still meet somebody.
Me too. But ultimately, it left a really, really big impact on me. The fact that you came to this in high school and you have so much wonderful life ahead of you. I just have so much hope for the future for you because you have this whole book that you still need to fill out of your life. I'm really, really, really glad that you got to get to this point at 22.
Yeah.
You know?
I appreciate it, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to not be mushy.
I think you're more happy than I am right now. I'm just trying not to be too emotional because I can ramble a lot, but you're having a great time, and that's great.
Hey, there are only so many things that I can offer up before I feel like I'm talking out of my butt, you know? And when it comes to these kinds of things, I only have my own experience to draw from before everybody knows I'm talking out of my butt, because that's just kind of how that is. And so I don't want to offer up something that I don't know or that I don't have the right to. But what I can say is that it sounds like you're a really sweet person. And I'm glad that you've come to this many conclusions that are going to inform the rest of this life that you have. At 22, my goodness.
Yeah. Sorry, can I talk for a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Both of my parents were pretty religious, and I actually was, I think, agnostic in about 4th grade or so. I'm not sure about the years, but I lost my faith pretty young, and I never really believed truly ever since. So if that blows your mind, maybe that would too.
I've talked to a number of people who have got there, and I'm just jealous. You know?
I gave up over something kind of dumb. I was bullied a lot leaving Catholic school.
Okay.
I was raised to be a Christian and all that. Well, Catholic, but I was too young to know what confirmation means, what baptism means. Like, all that was done to me. But I prayed for bullying to stop, and it was so bad. I think my anxiety was probably because each day I was just the teacher's pet. I was the kiss ass of the class who always tried to be the best student. And that was just not cool. And the bullying got so bad, I cried each day, and I prayed every single night for it to stop. And eventually I was like, what if no one's listening? And that was it. I just stopped praying after that. I stopped trying to ask for some assistance.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm agnostic, because I'm not disproving all religions. That's going to take too long. That's a fool's errand.
Well, so I think we can move into talking about that a little bit if you're up for it.
Sure.
Okay. So when you talk about agnosticism, do you think that you need to disprove every religious claim ever to call yourself an atheist?
No. The Google definition is just someone who doesn't believe in God. So I usually go with atheist just to be simpler. But yeah, I just don't know for certain.
I got it. So there are lots of arguments that people have about what agnosticism means. For me, agnosticism means that is a question that can't be answered.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not taking that hard of a stance. No.
And so, I mean, as long as you know what you mean and you can communicate that, which you just did, then that's fine. But my first thought is, why does Roy think that that question can't be answered? And so I'm like getting ready. But if that's not what you meant, then never mind. Okay.
I'll think of a different title. I do a lot of debates in my spare time. How much time would you like this call to last?
So I was thinking this show was going to last for an hour, and we're an hour and a half in. So maybe it'll last for 2 hours. But if that's the case, I've got 2 more calls. So I definitely want to make sure that I give them enough time as well. But if you want to dive into the nitty gritty of agnosticism and the conversations you've been having around it, would you be up for another week? Or what's up?
Oh, sorry. I kind of wanted to do one final point before I left.
No worries. Is it going to be one of those like 5-minute things, or do you just kind of want to
No.
sum it up and put it into and go for it? The stage is yours.
I've been pretty quick because I don't want to talk too much anyway.
You've done great. Go ahead.
Okay. Like both my parents are religious, but they kind of floundered a bit. Like my dad was raised Catholic, but he told me when he was around that he was bi and he's been with many people. Like he wasn't as strict as his grandma probably thought or his mom probably thought.
Nice.
And so he taught me to be open-minded and be more kind to everybody. And then my mom, on the other hand, she was a witness, a Jehovah's Witness. And she's just shunned away from all different churches. She's afraid to go to churches. She doesn't like certain media.
Yeah.
Like my dad was this free, kind person who didn't care what beliefs are. And then my mom just kind of closed herself off to the world and even to me in a few ways because of her religion.
Is she still
So
practicing?
I think both of their different perspectives definitely taught me a lot about how to be a good person.
Interesting. Is your mom still a practicing Jehovah's Witness?
No, she hasn't been to a church service in years. But my grandmother and my granddad on her side, like they never visited because we weren't of the faith.
Got it.
And so it was kind of sad growing up, but now I'm kind of like, well, I didn't want to be indoctrinated. Now I know how dangerous it is. Now I know why my mom left.
Yeah, just seeing along the non-believer spaces, the active ex-Jehovah's Witness community is one that really blows my mind because the level of intensity and indoctrination and community pressure that they put on themselves and each other is really, really intense. I'm consistently surprised and yeah, I'm sorry. Just we had that caller earlier who was talking about.
You're good.
We were talking about religious trauma, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can only imagine. But Roy,
I'll call again another time. I just wanted to say, like, my parents taught me a lot.
I'm glad that you got to balance that through. That's really, really awesome. I think you were fortunate there. I know that the format of this, there's a delay. And as a host, I try and kind of jump in, but it does, I know from the caller standpoint, and it sounds like we're cutting each other off. I appreciate your patience. But I'm really glad that you called. Thank you.
Bye, Eric. And tell V she's awesome, and you're awesome too.
They. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
What a sweetheart. I'm okay. So we've got more. We've got let's see. We've got another agnostic. Let's dive in and talk to Red. Red, you're on Skeptic Generation. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Let me get you here and then. Okay, sorry. Since I'm producing this while I'm hosting, I'm just making sure that your name is coming up.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Thank you for calling in. I know you're a little quiet, but I'm trying to bump your audio up a little bit. What did you want to talk about?
So I was trying to figure out how to articulate this with the call screener, and you kind of helped me out. So I'm agnostic atheist. I kind of used agnostic atheist kind of the same way that you do. There's no, I don't see, I don't have a way to disprove God, but I also don't believe there is one. I was raised Christian when I was younger, so I kind of fell off of faith, and these talk shows kind of helped me firmed my logical stance on things and
Awesome.
how to think critically. But recently, I mostly got into it because I like the aesthetics of it. Nordic paganism.
Mm-hmm.
I really like delving into that. And I don't necessarily, I like to like read about it. Like this previous Christmas, I celebrated Yule instead of Christmas because I don't really identify with Christmas anymore for personal reasons. I kind of just observe some of the pagan holidays, not necessarily because I don't really have a belief in it. I don't believe necessarily the wooey stuff in it. I just like to participate kind of in some of it because I kind of get a sense of joy out of it, kind of a sense of meditation in some of their practices and their symbolicism. I really like it, but I just been having these conflicting feelings of like, I don't believe this. Do I really get to say that I get to enjoy this, or should I delve into this stuff even though I don't believe it? Am I causing harm by pushing even though I don't really believe I'm pushing any belief on it, or just by even just participating in it?
Absolutely. That is a really, really good question. So you're going to get different answers from different people. I had a yelling match with somebody at a convention once about this.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was amazing because the person was one of the main organizers of the convention. It was at the Center, SciCon, Center for Inquiry. They do their convention in Las Vegas. And this person was extremely against Christmas for those reasons, right? But as I've kind of talked to people and as I've thought about it for myself, here's what I've come up with. We have a cultural heritage that we are entitled to. It is in our language, right? That there are a lot of words in English and probably every other language that have roots in religion. But that doesn't mean that leaving the faith means that you can't say those words anymore. You know, I can still say damn it, even though I know that no one's getting damned to hell, right?
Yeah.
And I think that holidays are the same, right? It is part of my cultural inheritance, I think. I was raised around holidays like Christmas and Easter. And while I don't believe the religious piece of it, it is an excuse that I get to have to make a whole bunch of food and tell the people that I love them, and to gather around and it is a really feel-good thing that I love doing, and I'm going to continue to do it. And I feel like I have the right to it. I don't need to celebrate the same way everybody else celebrates. And I think there are a lot of atheists that do that, and I think that is kind of a Christian atheist, right? Somebody who still takes part in some of the holidays and things like that, but they don't believe. You also have humanist or non-believing Jewish folks, right? Jewish atheists. Yeah. They still consider themselves Jewish because they still celebrate the holidays and are active in the community that they were a part of. They just don't believe. And what I love about the Jewish community is that they create a space for them, right? They don't ostracize them because they don't believe. They go, oh, you're still Jewish, you just don't believe in God, you know? When it comes to paganism, it's called atheopaganism. I'm sure you know that. But being an atheopagan means you're an atheist who is celebrating pagan stuff. You know, there are also...
I actually never heard of that before.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the atheopagan stuff.
It is a really, really interesting... Just be prepared, because people want to gatekeep, always. You know, there are Christians who want to gatekeep Christmas away from, atheists. There are going to be pagans who want to gatekeep, their pagan traditions away from non-believers as well. That said, you got people like Ocean Keltoi, who considers himself a pagan, but generally the last time I talked to him doesn't believe. There are lots of non-believers there who are taking part in those traditions because it gives them identity, a community to be a part of. You have those things in common. You have holidays like you talked about with Yule. We've celebrated Yule in this house for the last couple of years too, right? You have people who are involved in druidic or witch quote unquote witchy stuff.
Witchcraft.
Yeah.
Wicca.
But like V will do, spell work, which V knows it's not doing anything, but it appears to me to be a really great way to center yourself. It's like journaling, but you get to pretend to do cool stuff, and you're just like, it's meaningful, and you're doing things that are symbolic to you, which are really, really cool. You don't need to necessarily believe in it. That said, I think the harm comes when you prop up the religious parts. If you celebrate Christmas and you're like, hey, Merry Christmas, I don't think that's necessarily doing anything wrong. But if you're yelling at people that it's Christmas, damn it, not Happy Holidays, okay, I think you're doing something wrong. If you are saying Jesus is the reason for the season,
No.
I think
there's a reason why I stay away from Christmas now.
Yeah. So I don't say those things, but no one's taking Christmas away from me. Damn it, I love it too much. And I'm taking that as part of my cultural inheritance and my that heritage that I have a right to. So if you're going to get involved in paganism, the only scary thing that I've seen as an outsider is you got to be really careful, because there exists a paganism to alt-right pipeline that, like, if you're on TikTok and stuff, can get real scary.
I stay away from TikTok.
Well, just in social media, there exists this pipeline, and the great thing that I've seen in atheopagan and generally in pagan communities is this really big push to push out that kind of alt-right or really weird shit. There is definitely a big push to exclude that, and I'm really, really happy to see it. It's just something to be wary of, be mindful of that.
Yeah. I'm always vigilant for that kind of stuff. I'm pretty on the left, so I try to ground myself and stuff.
It can sneak up in really weird ways, and that's all. But yeah, I hope that giving you that definition of atheopaganism gives you a route that you can kind of search and have
that definitely did.
Good.
As I didn't think about it that before. I'm like, I had another thought while listening to you, and it might be something I call in later about, because I don't want to take up too much time since I know you have another caller on. But I feel like my fear of like perpetuating this, because I feel like, oh, I don't have a belief in God, and like, well, there's a lot of like people out there like Christianity and stuff that, not that I don't mind if you're Christian, but like if you perpetuate like things like you're taking rights away from people and stuff, I feel like I have to advocate for like, no, if you shouldn't participate in that if it's going to have harmful beliefs. But I kind of just came to the thought, like, that probably stems from me being ex-Christian and them perpetuating on me, you need to go out into the world and pretty much proclaim Jesus wherever you go,
the Great
which
Commission.
was drilled into my head as a young child and something I stressed a lot about.
Yeah.
I was like, that's probably where it stems from, and it's probably something I'm going to talk to my therapist about.
Well,
but
so
I think I need to articulate my points on that a bit better.
So the thing is, even if that is the point that you come to the conclusion about, it's valid, right? That argument that I had with somebody at PsyCon, they had that view that celebrating Christmas perpetuated Christian supremacy, and that the only way to get away from it is to abolish Christmas. And to me, I think that all lines are arbitrary in the end, and where you set your flag is where you set your flag. For me, I set my flag somewhere, like, I'm never going to pay a tithe at a church, you know?
Yeah.
But I am willing to reach across and collaborate with the church when it comes to doing humanist things, you know, aiding a community, right? For me, those are kind of where my lines are. And Christmas is firmly in the, you know, that's okay for me. But if you come to a different conclusion, that doesn't make you right or wrong. It just makes that the line that you drew for yourself, and that's okay. So
yeah, I think I'm still trying to figure out where I'm planting my flag. I guess I just keep moving it, and I feel bad.
Why?
In a way.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay. If there's something
I guess it's probably just a shame.
No, so if there's something that you want to draw from this, I remember when I went to church, one of the things that we would say to each other to invalidate other people is, oh, well, they said this thing, but they were wrong. So obviously they can be wrong again, right? There's this...
I do remember hearing that quite a bit in my church too, yes.
Yeah, there was this cultural expectation that if you can prove fallibility in someone, that person is no longer an authority. Which is why I think so many people are so desperate to not be wrong, even about stupid stuff, because they feel like that would kill their authority. The last conversation I ever had with my pastor, he was yelling at me about how Stephen Hawking said a thing and he was wrong and everybody laughed at him. And to him, that was proof positive that Stephen Hawking should never be listened to. Right?
Yeah.
That may be a little bit of that indoctrination still rattling around in there. It's okay to be wrong.
The more I think about it, yeah.
And I think that, like, for me, embracing that I can be wrong is the only reason I'm able to do a call-in show. Because if I screw up, what I need to do is I need to go, hey, shit, I was wrong about that. You know, I'm going to fix that, or, you know, and I'm going to do better moving forward. And people really appreciate that. And that's something that you have the right to do for yourself. It is totally okay to be wrong. Keep moving that flag until you are confident that that's where you want it to be. And in 20 years later, if you don't feel like that is the place for it to be anymore, move it again. It's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of. If anything, you should be proud that you're putting it somewhere where you believe and not because you were told to put it somewhere. That is awesome for you.
I'm trying my best. You just keep continuing to say things that I've been struggling a lot with my mental health and stuff. And I just want to thank you for... When you coming back today, you just said so many things that resonated with me, and it's really going to help me later on. Earlier in the show, you said growth doesn't come without pain, and I pretty much started crying because I've been going through a lot of pain, and that just kind of helped validate my feelings that I am growing, because I've been feeling like I'm not growing enough recently. So thank you so very much for your words.
I'm really glad that they helped, and there is going to come a point in time where the future version of you is going to look back at this and be like, hell yeah, I was growing. It's just we're not able to see it when we're in the middle of it, but that hurt is growth. So that's awesome. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for calling, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm really glad that you called.
Thank you so much. I was debating on whether I should call today or next week, but I'm like, no, I want to call now. So thank you for having me. The
show is better because you'd called. So thank you. Take care. Have a good one.
You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. My heart. So I have one more caller that I want to get to. Let's talk to Christian in Ohio. Christian, you have been waiting for so long, and I am so grateful that you waited. Thank you so much. You are live on Skeptic Generation. How's it going?
I'm doing very well. I'm very grateful that you extended the show to take my call.
Of course.
I have been listening ever since you guys started this show. And I was a fan of you guys back when you were on Atheist Experience and other things as well.
Even? Yeah. That's awesome.
So very glad that you're back, but obviously anytime you need to step away again for your mental health, I support. I'm just happy to have you on my Sunday again.
Red, I'm so glad that you exist. Thank you. I was so worried that people were going to feel betrayed, so thank you.
Oh, no. Always support taking some time off for mental health. I need it too, so I get it.
Sure.
My question is kind of a more practical one that I've been thinking about calling about for a while. I was probably working up the courage to do it right before you went off the air, and and now you're back, and now I can ask it. But it's okay. I've even gotten better at this thing that I'm going to ask about. So my question is about using gender-neutral pronouns. I am non-binary identifying myself, although I don't consider myself trans. I still present as a man. I allow everybody in my life to call me through masculine pronouns, but like in my head, I know gender is a construct and I do not identify with masculine things. And so I identify as non-binary if people ask me, but most people, I don't care that they don't ask. But also I have a lot of people call me gay and stuff, even though I'm straight mostly. And because I am not very masc presenting in a lot of like personality ways, even though outwardly, like physically I am. Anyway, enough about me. So I'm non-binary, asking a question about non-binary pronouns. I have a really hard time getting my brain to use them consistently. And I'm really thankful to you because you have modeled it for me a lot with how you refer to thee. And it has helped me get better at using the correct pronouns for them. And but that has taken a long time. Like I've known of thee for years, and I'm finally getting better at my brain recognizing what is true and not trying to go back to the old binary that I used to believe in when I was raised Christian. And so when I have like years and years of practice, it's great, but that is not always the case. And so I was wondering if you had any tips about how you trained your brain to get more comfortable with like reflexively using they, them pronouns, because I'm not good at it.
How do I think this is, you know how people say the world will be a better place when we plant trees that will never live to enjoy the shade.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like we're planting those trees. And I feel like most people, you know, when you hit your 20s and your brain stops growing, things, you know, that kind of brain elasticity, it becomes more difficult. And it sounds like you have been implicitly graceful and charitable to everyone around you, in that you are granting so much for everybody else. And I think that we're in a situation, in a place where there's this idea that, oh, people are going to be mad at me if I misgender them, right? You are coming in gracefully and kindly right at the start. You're front loading, like, hey, you know, this is what I'm comfortable with you calling me right now, and like the amount that you are giving is huge, and I wish that everybody could see that, because there's so much that you're already doing that I feel, you know, it does take grace and patience and forgiveness in a lot of ways for people, you know, who are figuring that shit out. And it's not your burden to bear unless you want to take that on. There's so many pieces to it. So I guess I need to zero in, because I'm getting too broad, and that's gonna not help. How did I train my brain into using they, them pronouns? Practice, and I gave non-binary people a place, their own cubby. You know, I think that before I really engaged in trans and non-binary spaces, I had a cubby for boys and a cubby for girls, and that was kind of it. So you had to choose between them. And now I have a cubby for theys. And it's interesting. Like I guess the first example that comes to mind for me is I was told that bi culture has people sit funny in chairs, and I sit funny in chairs, and I'm bi, right? I'm never not doing a show where I'm crossing my legs or sitting on my knees, you know, or something like that weird in the chair. And a lot of people like create a cubby for that and go, this is where they get to be and these are the kinds of things that they get to have. And as soon as I created a cubby for non-binary folks, I started to see a whole lot of things that non-binary folks are doing to signal that they're non-binary when it comes to clothing or language or things like that. And it became its own place for me. And eventually, I think that I had fucked up and misgendered people enough that my kind of go-to is to just assume that I don't know their gender right off, starting out. And I guess I reflexively use they, them pronouns for most people unless they specifically, indicate to me otherwise. I had habits like calling people brother that are very gendered until a cis woman came to me and said, Eric, can you call me brother too? Because I feel like I'm missing out because it feels like something that you do with boys and I want to be a part of that. And so it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or not. I call people brother. The only people I'm like nervous about doing that with is people who specifically, like trans women who are afraid that feels, awkward and misgendering.
Right.
I won't use that, but like otherwise that's something that I've kind of universalized a bit. I don't know, the doing that for yourself, I think that I would want you to talk to other people who use they them pronouns, because I'm sure that there are as many stories and as many tactics as there are people.
Yeah.
But speaking as somebody who doesn't use they them pronouns, that's the best I have to offer. But it doesn't, that is so far from definitive. I really do recommend that you talk to people that you share that with and listen to them, because I'm sure they have a lot more relevant information than I do.
Well, thank you. One of the reasons that I struggle is because one of my very best friends, who I've known for years and years, came out maybe about a year ago as non-binary, although they are very graceful as well and formerly used she, her pronouns, and so they're very accommodating with the people around them. And I still, in my head, like, because they've been a friend for such a long time, they're still in the she, her category in my head. And I have to, like, if I catch myself, I have to really think about it before I use they, them. And that person doesn't care. They're very sweet. But I wish that I had that cubby that you're talking about. And I think that would help.
It is way harder to do that for people you already know, because they have a cubby that they've been in. So you don't just get to cubby that friend. You've got to take them out of the cubby that they have been in and then put them in a new one, which means that like you have to undo stuff instead of just doing it immediately. I think I'm really lucky that V came out to me as non-binary early in us knowing each other. And so I was able to cubby them pretty quickly because I didn't have to undo a whole lot. So maybe I haven't earned as much as you think. I do have friends who are non-binary who I grew up with, and I can tell you that it took a lot of grace and patience and kindness on their part until I was able to get it right. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that most NB people are so gracious about it. That has always been my experience as well. There's the media stereotype of like the quick clap back, you will gender me appropriately, but I've never witnessed that in real life. I've seen maybe some viral videos or whatever, but it's so much more common that you are more broken up about it than they are. Like,
oh, absolutely. And the thing that kills me is those viral videos that you're talking about. It's probably somebody on their worst day.
Right, exactly.
And how uncharitable. If you talk to them a week later, they're probably not going to do that. And if they are, then holy shit, we don't know what's going on in their lives, but to assume that everyone is that way, I think is responding in fear and I think that it's something that I've done too in other places. Is my first response to something unknown is for me to be as forward as I can be about the things I'm afraid of. And it's uncharitable to yourself and it's uncharitable to everyone else. And I think it's a habit that we have. So like I said, I appreciate your grace, and it's an ongoing conversation. But I do definitely recommend that you talk to other people who are in the same boat, because as an outsider, I'm just some fucking asshole on the internet, you know? Like, don't.
Well, just know that you have been instrumental, even in your cisness. You have been instrumental in me getting better at it just through modeling. I'm a teacher, and so I have to model things for my students all the time. And you have been modeling for me, and I appreciate it. It's the best way that I learn.
I send in love. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for calling in.
No problem. Thanks for taking my call. Have a good one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What's up?
I reread the thing and I was like, is Christian? No. Okay.
No.
No.
The irony is not lost on me, though.
Hey,
Yeah.
You know what? Appreciate you. And that is your heritage. That is yours. You get to fucking keep it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Have an awesome
Yep. I keep the name. I wear it proudly.
Good.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Oh my. Okay, so I want to hop right into Super Chats. This was a lot of fun. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it went so long. So I want to say, let me just move this over here. Let's start at the top. Let me get this up. I apologize. Bookworm of the Fandoms says, hello, I'm so excited to have my favorite YouTube live show back on air. I'm so glad you felt ready to come back. Can't wait to see what's in the future. Loving the conversation so far. Have a lizard punch. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming have a great day. Thank you, Bookworm. I sincerely appreciate it. Kiyu Tomoyaki says, thrilled you're back. I wonder, though, will the show ever start later than 9 a.m.? I'll wake up early at any time for this, but I'm not a morning person. Kiyu, I really thought about that because it's 9 a.m. for me, too. But we have volunteers and people who watch the show regularly who are in other countries. Specifically, we have a pretty good European listenership. And when I've said, hey, I'm thinking about starting at 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, that is really, really late for them. And, moving further into like Eastern European countries, I've had, volunteers who've said, if you start that late, I won't be able to be involved. And it broke my heart enough that I was just like, I want to start early enough so that we can have that audience here too. So I really appreciate you being okay with waking up early. And if you can't make the live show, that's totally understood. I do release it as a podcast. And it is there, but if you want to be involved in the live chat, then yeah. I'm thinking that I'm going to be starting at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, just so that, those people who want to watch can be involved too. Let's see. Dan says, I watch your show for its kindness and charity. How do we address the grounding problem of morality? Excuse me. Dan, please call in. Let's have that conversation. There's no way I'm not going to be able to do that without bouncing that, with somebody else. And I would love to have it. If you can, call next week. Let's see. King Nick says, yay, SkepGen is back. Wishing all the best to you and V. Really looking forward to another season. Damn straight. Thank you. I'm looking forward to hosting another season. I cannot tell you how good this has made me feel. And I missed it. And I missed all of you. Okay. Let's see. Jen says, because you're both awesome and V put up with me writing essay-length DMs when I was figuring my shit out. So that deserves a donation by itself. Jen sent £5. Thank you, Jen. That's really, really sweet. I will make sure to give that 5 to V. Thank you. King Nick, again, says, also massive shout out to my amazing fiance, Tanya. Tanya, shout out. You got a cool fiance. Ben says, welcome back. I like your more Socratic method to calls than the smackdown that some call-in shows go for with every disagreement. I appreciate that. I remember reading on Reddit somebody saying, I hate Eric. I hate his voice. I hate his face. I can't stand every time that he's on. I only watch episodes that he's not on. And I responded, I agree. I don't like his voice or his face either. But I really hope that you can find the people that you do like, and I gave recommendations of other shows and other hosts, because what's important is that you find what you're looking for, you find what's going to resonate with you. And I'm really, really grateful and glad that I resonate with you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you found me. And there are times that I am going to lose my temper, for sure. But I would love for when I lose my temper to be for good reason. I want people to go, oh man, Eric lost it. Something must have happened. I don't want people to assume that I'm doing it for attention or because I can't regulate my emotions. Because I want to model, maybe when it's justified, or at least justified to me, and keep my cool when it's not justified, because the angry atheist stereotype is one that we need to get away from. We really do. It's not helping us. Okay. Sheridan says, welcome back. Missed you. Thank you, Sheridan. I'm glad to be back. And Brianna says, so happy to see you back. I missed y'all. Thank you so much. This episode has been wild. I have links to update because the link to Patreon is down. But if you want to get an ad-free version of the podcast, get early access to things, special access on Discord, an ad-free version of this live show, you can go to patreon.com/skepticgeneration, I believe. Link will be in the description for the show. I will be back on next week. So if you didn't get to call in, or you want to call in, or you have someone who wants to talk about what they believe and why, I really look forward to it. And in the meantime, I'm Eric Murphy, and I'm glad we had this talk. See you next week.